Brock Lesnar is back and he just sent shockwaves through the entire WWE landscape. If you want to stay on top of wrestling's biggest stories, subscribe to WWE Express right now because we're about to break down what his unexpected return means for Oba Femi, for the entire Raw brand, and for the direction of one of wrestling's most interesting rising stars. The Beast Incarnate has returned and the implications are absolutely massive. We've been tracking Oba Femi's trajectory closely here on WWE Express, watching him develop from an exciting prospect into someone who legitimately feels like he could challenge for the absolute biggest championships in WWE. His size, his power, his presence in the ring, everything about him screams future main event player. And then Brock Lesnar walks through that curtain and suddenly the entire dynamic shifts. This isn't about Lesnar versus some random mid-card competitor. This is about Lesnar versus a guy who genuinely represents the future of this company, and that's precisely why this moment matters so much. When we talk about Brock's previous career arc, we're talking about a performer who essentially rewrote what a dominant force in professional wrestling could look like. The man was unstoppable. He was a different level physically, a different level psychologically, and every single time he stepped into that ring, there was genuine danger in the air. That's not something you can fake. That's not something that's easy to manufacture. Brock had it, and when he left, a massive piece of that aura left with him. So now he's back, and the question isn't whether he can still deliver dominant performances. The question is what his return means for the entire landscape of professional wrestling storytelling in 2026. Oba Femi represented something fresh. He represented the raw potential that could challenge the established order. We've seen so many promising young talents come through WWE, and not all of them make that final jump into genuine main event territory. But Oba felt different. He felt like the kind of guy who could become a pillar of the company if everything lined up properly. His matches showed technical improvement, his character work showed genuine potential, and his ability to carry himself against established names was evident. And then Brock comes back and brutally reminds everyone why he's a different level entirely. The way this scenario plays out narratively is crucial. This isn't just about one dominant guy beating another guy. This is about momentum, about perception, about the entire narrative landscape of professional wrestling. When Brock returned and destroyed Oba Femi, what happened wasn't just a wrestling match. What happened was a statement. A statement that no matter how impressive you've become, no matter how promising your trajectory looks, there's still a level above where you are. There's still a ceiling that not everyone reaches. And Brock Lesnar is the guy who reminds you of that fact by his mere presence. Think about this from a storytelling perspective. Oba Femi had been building something. He had been climbing. He had been establishing himself as someone the audience needed to take seriously. And that's the absolutely brilliant part of bringing Brock back in this moment. Because now you have multiple storytelling paths that become possible. Maybe this is the beginning of Oba Femi's rise despite the loss that actually proves he belongs at the next level because he could hang with Brock Lesnar, even briefly. Maybe this triggers a deeper motivation inside Oba, something that transforms his character and his approach to professional wrestling. Or maybe Brock becomes the new focus of the Raw brand, and Oba has to recalibrate his entire approach. What's fascinating is how Brock's return disrupts established momentum in a way that feels organic and earned. We talk a lot here on WWE Express about how professional wrestling is built on momentum, on the stories that unfold over weeks and months and sometimes years. You can't just randomly have guys win championship matches or main event shows. There has to be a narrative reason. There has to be a story that makes sense and makes fans invested. Brock Lesnar's return, and his immediate destruction of Oba Femi, provides massive narrative repercussions that will ripple across the entire Raw product going forward. The implications for Oba specifically are worth examining closely. Does he bounce back from this? Does he take time to develop further before challenging the absolute elite? Or does this moment become a crucible, a defining moment where we find out whether Oba Femi has the mentality and the resilience to become a true main event player? These are the questions that drive professional wrestling storytelling. It's not just about who wins and who loses. It's about what those wins and losses mean for the characters involved and for the larger narrative ecosystem of the promotion. For the Raw brand itself, Brock's return immediately elevates the championship picture and the general sense of stakes. When Lesnar is in your product, the entire weight of the show shifts. Every match suddenly matters more because you know that Lesnar is a legitimate threat to anyone on the card at any given moment. His very presence changes the psychology of how people approach their characters and their storylines. That's the kind of performer that very few people can bring to professional wrestling, and it's a huge part of why his returns are always massive moments. What we're looking at moving forward is genuinely unpredictable territory. Brock's presence opens up multiple storytelling avenues that weren't available before. Does he challenge for the World Championship? Does he target up-and-coming stars like Oba to establish dominance early in his return? Does he become entangled with the established main event players who've been building their own stories? All of these questions are now on the table, and that uncertainty is incredibly valuable for professional wrestling as an art form. The destruction of Oba Femi isn't a punishment for Oba or a statement that his push is over. It's actually a baptism by fire. It's proof that he's important enough to share a segment with Brock Lesnar. It's proof that the company sees something in him worth showcasing alongside one of the biggest names in professional wrestling history. Yes, the loss stings, but the opportunity was enormous. And that's the kind of narrative complexity that we should all be excited about as fans of professional wrestling. Subscribe to WWE Express as we continue breaking down these massive storyline implications, analyzing character psychology, and exploring exactly where professional wrestling is headed in the weeks and months ahead. We're just getting started with this Lesnar chapter, and WWE Express will be here to cover every evolution, every turn, and every consequence that unfolds.